Hey guys, Spud here, as always, and today I wanted to talk to you guys about a feature that I think is very needed in DCS World and would be welcomed with open arms by the community, and especially by members of our community that love to fly and fight with us in the virtual skies despite working with a physical disability. That much needed feature is an automatic air-to-air refueling system. Now, I know the purists out there are probably putting their fist through the screen of their computer and screaming, "No, no, no! We can't possibly have something like that. It's a skill issue, and everyone should just get good." However, let's take a moment to step back and talk about why I believe some sort of system to automatically take over the jet and perform air-to-air refueling for you would be a net positive for DCS World. And while I have proven over the years countless times that air-to-air refueling in DCS World can be done expeditiously and professionally, it can still be extremely difficult. And oddly enough, in-game, the boom and receptacle method preferred by the USAF is actually much harder to master in comparison to the probe and drogue method preferred by the US Navy and other nations, such as most NATO countries and Russia or the old Soviet Union. The exact opposite of what is reported by real-life pilots learning to aerial refuel. This phenomenon is caused by a number of factors. The first, and probably most important reason air-to-air refueling is very difficult in the sim is most of us are playing DCS World on flat panel displays in our home cockpit. That either limits or eliminates any true sense of depth perception. This makes keeping station while flying formation in DCS much more difficult. And while it can be done, the station keeping required by air-to-air refueling operations is extremely precise, and far more so than required for, say, a fingertip cruise formation. While loss of depth perception can be mitigated by the use of VR headsets, the second reason for the difficulty of air-to-air refueling is the lack of vestibular sensation inside of the simulator. Your vestibular system is essentially your inner ear and your body's sense of direction, balance, and acceleration in the X, Y, and Z axis. And while trusting our inner ear over our instruments while flying an IMC may give us a dangerous case of vertigo and even lead to CFIT, our vestibular system is still very important to a pilot flying in formation, and especially the very precise formation flying required for air-to-air refueling. A pilot can correct for minute changes in pitch, attitude, and airspeed much faster and more precisely using their innate senses and quote-unquote feeling the jet than waiting for their eyeballs or instruments to process that change visually and or mechanically that we are of course limited to in DCS World, even with a VR headset. The third reason that air-to-air refueling in DCS World is so difficult is the physical makeup of our home cockpits, our joysticks or HOTAS controls, as well as our physical bodies. Aircraft manufacturers spend thousands of hours and millions of dollars in R&D to come up with the most ergonomic cockpit layouts possible for their aircraft design. Well, unless of course you're MiG, Sukhoi, or Yakovlev, but that's besides the point. And this cockpit layout that a company chooses is standard and rarely changes over the life of an aircraft. Except of course if you're an F-4 Phantom. Now think of all the pictures you've seen of DCS players' home cockpits. Some are laid out extremely ergonomically and beautifully, allowing the pilot to place his or her forearm on their thigh to allow for small and precise muscle movements on the stick, just like a real aircraft with a center stick in the cockpit. While other folks just getting into DCS World or limited by budget constraints will have their HOTAS sitting on a base plate on top of their desk at the same level as their keyboard and mouse. This can lead to unsupported elbows and forearms, which causes the DCS player to have to use the larger and less precise muscles in their arm to fly their aircraft, making formation flying much more difficult and making air-to-air refueling all but impossible. This type of setup can also lead to shoulder and elbow cramps, as well as fatigue over the course of a long flight, such as the Sunday missions we fly on the Spuds Buds Discord server. Then of course, we get to the DCS World players out there who may have a physical disability they are working through. I have worked personally with a number of disabled fans of DCS World, both veterans and civilians who use DCS World as an escape from the trials and tribulations of daily life, just as we all do. But for these folks in particular, DCS can come with even more added and extra meaning, especially for those disabled veterans out there wanting to recapture and relive some of the best moments of their lives. I have seen many DCS World players overcome their physical challenges through unique and creative home cockpit setups and become awesome pilots who can fly in formation, dogfight, drop bombs, and snag 3 wires with the best of them. But unfortunately for this segment of the DCS World fanbase, who in some cases are the most loyal and passionate fans of DCS, their physical disability may preclude them from ever being able to fly with the absolute perfect precision required to hook up with and get that sweet, sweet gas from a tanker. So what am I proposing here? I am basically proposing an automated air-to-air refueling system for DCS World aircraft. My idea is that this will be a gameplay option to either enable or disable the system. That could also, of course, be influenced by a mission maker in the mission options panel of the mission editor. In order to make the system as realistic and immersive as possible, the DCS pilot would have to contact a tanker on the correct radio utilizing the correct frequency, as they would have to do while manually tanking. Then, once the player approached the tanker, hopefully by flying a nice intercept, the player would have to meet certain criteria, such as starting at observation left, then sliding over to the pre-contact area, matching the tanker's airspeed within a certain range plus or minus. Then a small and unobtrusive pop-up would appear on the side of the screen, prompting the player to, say, press the spacebar to activate the automated system or backspace to deactivate the system for manual control. If the automated system was activated, then the DCS AI would take over your aircraft to complete the refueling cycle. There could even be a method of telling the DCS AI how much fuel you'd like to take on board before completing the cycle. Heck, it could even be coded in such a way that the AI could quote-unquote struggle to hook up with the tanker based on the weather conditions around the tanker aircraft, such as crosswinds, IMC, or turbulence, thus increasing the immersion. Then, once the refueling evolution is complete, The AI slides you back to the pre-contact area and hands manual control back over to the player using the system. As a mission maker and large event host that regularly flies with 40 plus pilots, Wizzos, gunners, ATC controllers, JTACs, etc., I can tell you that missions that require aerial refueling are some of the hardest to recruit DCS pilots to sign up for, but can be some of the most fun and immersive missions to fly through. And from what I have gathered from my community, it isn't the long flights or mission times, it's the act of hooking up with the tanker that makes people shy away, especially when it's critical to the mission or event in question. So this potential automated system would do nothing but help increase people's enjoyment of DCS World. Whether you're a beginner with a super high-end home cockpit, or you're a veteran DCS player working with a budget cockpit, or you're working with some sort of physical disability. This system would massively increase DCS's inclusivity without bringing down the experience for those who have no problem getting gas from a tanker. In fact, it might even increase the immersion of higher skilled pilots by eliminating the wild oscillations from beginners behind the tanker or those awful mid-air collisions, leaving everyone scrambling for a divert field. And of course, it would be a great fallback, even for those higher skilled pilots who may be having an off day like we all do from time to time. Maybe they aren't feeling their best, or are struggling with a stick or throttle whose calibration files may have become corrupted. But you still want to continue on the mission with your friends and enjoy the experience. So all in all, I think a system such as this would be a win-win-win for beginners, veteran DCS pilots, and those in the DCS community struggling with physical challenges. Please let me know what you think down in the comments below. Please fly safe out there and enjoy this beautiful game. Thanks guys, and we'll see you in the next one.